Let's see who tunes
Computer, I
in. can
only see the zeros.
Yep, it's not even on yet.
Okay.
Hold on, 9:15 usually is the, you see that? You can move your head around.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Let's see, 2 minutes, see if people log in. There she goes. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Oh, one person already logged in. What? You're natural.
Mm-hmm.
You see, you're natural.
Okay. Holy Spirit.
Of course. Yeah. Doesn't have to. Absolutely.
Knows everything. So.
Absolutely. And I'm a firm believer in that. Styles. But actually, that's my husband and someone else. Hi, Scotty. So, all right. So in about, was it 1 minute? All right, it's first part. So everyone, we're going to be talking about how to find the right home space and actually being able to fit in it. A lot of times people are downsizing or they're going into spaces like, oh, I don't want to go into the space that I just left because I can't fit into that. And it's like, really? Can you really not fit into it, or do you really need to give some stuff away, declutter some stuff, organize your life, and you might be surprised at what you can fit in and what you can actually afford too, because that does make a difference on price point too. If you think you need a bigger house and you're looking for something big, you can actually go for something smaller and actually make it work for less money. But we have a guest today, again, 2020. Hello. 2020, we have our Serice Lane. I just love her name because I could do so much with that name. So I'm really excited to kick off 2020 on some practical ways on fitting into your, maybe even your current space. And then also too, preparing yourself for home ownership and what's to come and what you can expect and how to fit in it. All right, so it's 11 o'clock. Let's go. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for this time. Make it be productive, Holy Spirit.
Exciting.
In the name of Jesus.
It can also be overwhelming. It's a great leap of faith, but as Jesus said, all things are possible to him who believes. Welcome to Faith in Homebuying, equipping people of faith for the home buying process. Your host is Tamika Ellsworth, an award-winning realtor, home strategist, and educator who combines a deep understanding of the Bay Area market with a passion for helping others realize their dreams. Now, offering practical advice, reliable insight, and useful knowledge for the prospective homebuyer, here's Tamika Ellsworth.
Alrighty. What? It's 2020, everybody. And I just want to welcome everyone for the first episode in 2020. And I'm pretty excited because what better way to start off a year than to make sure that your house is in order, right? Not just the spiritual house, but the actual physical house is in order. And I'm really excited today too, not just to kind of bring some practical insight on that, but I have a special guest, Serice Lane here. Go ahead, Serice, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
And it's going to be some good stuff. You know, we met, you had heard the show, and we had met randomly at a mutual friends event. And come to find out that she recognized the name and the voice and said, wait a minute, I hear you. But it was even more than that, because it was a God divine appointed meeting, because just to know that you do consulting work in home organization for the person that we came to see. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but I'm super excited about what's going to come from that and who's going to be blessed by it. But it's time for some activation. I really believe that, you know, the three things that I've been gifted to share on these episodes are one of activation, 2 of education, and 3 of empowerment. All right, so look into our activation. Of course, the Word of God is the best activation, I think. And so Ecclesiastes 3. This time I'm not going through my TPT version, but we are going a New Living Translation, which I think kind of fares very, very well with this particular topic. But a time for everything, which there is. There's a time for everything, and for everything there is a season. A time for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to harvest. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to cry and a time to laugh. A time to grieve and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones. And a time to embrace and a time to turn away. A time to search and a time to quit searching. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be quiet and a time to speak. And lastly, a time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. And I think it's so fitting that at this time in 2020, in talking about specifically verse 6, a time to search and a time to quit searching, believe me. Sometimes I feel like it's time to quit searching for homes or for things, in people's lives, but most importantly, a time to keep and a time to throw away. And I think it's very important, and what we're going to talk about is some practical realtor tips that I'm going to give, but actual advice that Sherice, as a kind of an organizing consultant, will give. It's just there are times for everything. Not everything is intended to keep or hold on to forever, and sometimes it can be a hindrance versus a blessing. Maybe at one point it was intended as a blessing, but it's really, really taken up too much space and actually being cumbersome. Like furniture being kind of, handed down, things of that nature. And I think it's fitting too, even with documents and paperwork and such, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too, that sometimes, holding on to those things, especially if it's gotten past a certain time frame and time period, it's time to let it go. There's things that are maybe even personal to us that it's time to let go, and even people. Let's just put it out there, right there too. Like, you have people in your household that you're trying to accommodate in order to go into a house. It's time to let them go too, so that you can actually get a house as well. But it's very important. And I when I talk to my clients, and we're preparing ourselves, again, equipping people faith for the home buying process. It really is to take a deep, long, hard look at your situation. Where you're at right now. Is all of that going to go with you? And I think we can look at it that spiritually, right? When we go into a new year, 2020, I'm looking at it as, new vision, not even new vision, clear vision, concise vision, new vision that I supervision, things that I didn't even know about and that I really know, the things that I can't see. God, you said to call upon you from the deep things. I want to look at those things. I want to find out things that I have no clue about and didn't even think that there was an answer to, and yet you show me that there is an answer in order to make things work inside my life. That's the stuff that I want to see in this year, and to just catapult me into the next year after that and the year after that. And so, again, this is one of the reasons why I'm really thankful for this particular segment, because I think it's a kickoff to the rest of this year and the rest of what's set up for people. And I'm believing, honestly, like I have even last year, that was just a running start. I'm believing that, this year in 2020, that running start is just going to continue. I'm a track runner, so that's part of my, or I should still be doing it. But anyways, so I was a track runner, running the 400, 800 mile relay, right? So it's not like, it's the first burst of what you do, right? So I think that's the first action, is saying, what, by faith, I'm gonna get out there, I'm gonna start it. So it's taking that initial step. But in the interim and that running, you have to pace yourself. And as you're pacing yourself, it's okay, what things do I need to shed, right? What things do I need to let off in order so that by the time that I complete my run, especially the 400, just one time around, so by the time I get to the last 200 meters, I can now, any extra energy that I have, I can run and I can sprint to the finish line and actually finish out what I started. And so that's what I'm hoping that in 2020, that right now we were at that first 100, running and pacing ourselves. And then we get right down the stretch from, the 300 to the end, we're going to be running really fast. And why? Because you're going to be dropping, whether it be people, situations, things that are cluttering maybe your mind. Maybe it's habits that we're looking at and talking about reorganizing and stepping away from, right? Maybe it's habits, right? Because different habits create different problems for us, especially in home ownership. And I've seen it a lot. We go out and we look at homes, and they're very picky about certain things. But when you get back to the home front and where they actually live, it's like, you're picky about that, but you haven't been a good steward over what you've been given in the first place. There's no balance right here. We gotta work something out so that what you see, you're going to be a good steward over it when God gives it to you and hands it to you, right? And I've seen that too, and I'm believing that someone's going to catch this today, and someone's going to say, you know what, forget spring cleaning. Dude, 2020, beginning of the year, cleaning and getting things organized and such. And so, all that being said, again, thank you for joining for this first of the year episode. And I really honestly believe that you're going to get some practical insight. If you are a new homeowner looking for a home, thinking that you have some needs and some wants, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some needs and some wants and some really practical advice on really looking for a home and really looking into something that you can actually fit into. And we're actually going to talk about, too, how to organize your space. Maybe some organization tips that you didn't even think were possible. But they are, in order to make you fit into that space in which you didn't think that you could fit into anyway. And, and also some advice on being able to, just declutter. When we say clutter, we don't mean junk. We just mean things that probably have served their time and their purpose and is no longer serving you, and to get rid of it without regret, to get rid of it. All right. So again, thank you very much for joining in. I'm pretty excited. Stay tuned. This is Tamika Ellsworth, and I'm here with Serice Lane, and we're going to be talking about equipping people of faith for the home buying process, specifically for the organization of their homes and of their lives, and to be able to fit into that space that God has designed and destined for them. I know it's 13-14 seconds. We're going to add that on, okay? So yeah, so the next one, education. So just so you know what's kind of coming up. And if you do want to say something, just kind of go like this, like, I have something to add to that, or maybe you've experienced it, okay? But as a realtor standpoint, I'm going to talk about the education part and the people that I normally serve. And the biggest thing is need versus want. Do you really need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath? Really? Over 1,000 square feet? Really? And talking about that and how people have actually gotten into homes not thinking that they could, it serves a purpose. It actually works for them, right? And then garage. Some people, they pass up opportunities on homes because it doesn't have a garage. Do you want the garage just to have your car in, or is it for more storage of stuff? So you know what I mean. Like those are So it's that practical thing. Don't pass up things just because you want to store stuff.
Right.
So
That's a big problem.
all right.
Now back to Faith in Homebuying, equipping people of faith for the home buying process. Once again, your host, Tamika Ellsworth.
Wait, hold on, Joel. I didn't get my timer. Yep. Go ahead and give me the time, because I know it's not 10:45.
Be 11:02.
11:02. 2. All right, got it. I'm gonna try this again. All right, everyone, coming on again. I'm gonna educate you this time.
Now back to Faith in Homebuying, equipping people of faith for the home buying process. Once again, your host, Tamika Ellsworth.
All right. So yes, we are equipping people of faith for the home buying process. I'm here with my special guest, Serice Lane. Believe me, her part is coming up in the next segment, though. But you know, if she wants to chime in on this next one, these next tips are kind of like my realtor tips. These are the things that I talk with my clients about. Practically when we go out and we look for homes, especially if they're first-time homeowners, right? Usually if you're a second time, third time or so, you've done the process before, you kind of know what you're looking for, and it's a little bit different, but usually when you're first starting out, you kind of don't know what you want. There's a lot of people coming from maybe a studio or maybe a one-bedroom, apartment or such, right? Some are coming from big old homes, and they want this big home too, but they don't got the big home price. So they got to really look at what is actually practical, right? So let's talk about that. So the first one on my little tips as a realtor is need versus want, okay? Do you really need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home over 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet or so? Do you really need that? And the reason why I say that is because, especially if you're a couple or if you're a single person, and your budget doesn't even fit, something having a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, especially in the area that you want, is it practical that you're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath when you really should be looking at a 2-bedroom, 1-bath? Or maybe even a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, yes, 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath. Just because you don't want, guests using your main bathroom, maybe it's inside the upstairs and you want them to stay downstairs, half bath, they can wash their, hands and do whatever they need to do. They don't have to go in your bathroom, just to be practical about things. But when I talk to clients and, it's only them or maybe it's a couple, okay? You have no kids yet, probably not even planning to have any kids, but yet you want a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and it's not practical, and it's out of your price points. Therefore, we're passing up homes where technically you could actually be really good with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. But you choose not to because you think that, okay, my first home has got to be my everything home. But I got news for you. Sometimes the first home isn't the forever home, and that's okay. Sometimes the first home is the home that you actually get your feet wet, you get started. You make sure it's in a good location so that, number one, it can gain an equity. And what does that equity do? That equity increases over time so that you can actually start to buy now what you really want, okay? So there's always something to think about practically. Do you really need that 3rd bedroom? Can you do with the 2nd bedroom for a little bit? Maybe you do have a family. Maybe you're pregnant. Maybe you do actually, have a child. Maybe adopt, have a child, however it happens. But guess what? If it's a baby, it's not going to be in its own bedroom for a while anyway. This is pretty much going to be in your bedroom for a while inside of their bassinet, and you know what I'm saying? So there's time. I mean, you have time, 5 years or so before they really have their own space and room. And say, for instance, you have twins, and you get a 2nd child, even if it's a boy and a girl, or a girl and girl, boy and boy, they can stay inside that 2nd room for a while. You might have to work some things out to have an office if you do work from home, but it's still practical. You can still do it and actually make room, save money so that you can get what you want in the next couple of years. By the time they come and actually start school, you can actually have it accomplished. So that being said, need versus want. Do you really need it or do you just want it? And are you passing up opportunities where you really need to look in that direction versus looking for something that's just so extravagant and so big, but yet being patient with what you have and what you have the capacity to afford? Okay, so need versus want. So the second one, garage. You don't know how many times I come across folks say, no, I need a garage to make I just, we have to have a garage. Okay, that's one thing. But is that garage going to be used for storing stuff? Like if it was a U-Haul like storage place, or are you actually going to put your car in it, both cars inside of it, and store stuff? Store your cars? Or is it actually going to be used for a whole storage like container? There's a problem. There's a lot of homes that are out there, even actual single-family residences or detached homes that have maybe 1-car garages, right? Are you using that for your car? Or are you going to use it for storage? There's a lot of units, too, that are condos and townhouses and such where actually they don't have garages. And they're nice. You may have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but it doesn't have a garage. Are you going to pass it up? Why do you need a garage? And I have a lot of people that don't even use the garage for storing their homes. They use it for actually storing boxes and everything else but cars. And so again, practically, do you really need a garage? Is it something that's a need versus a want? Is it something that you have to have because you choose not to declutter or organize? Hey, that's what we're talking about in 2020. That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, there's probably some ways in which if you look at your life and readjust how you steward over things, you might be surprised with the less is actually more. The less is actually more. It really, really is. And it can get you into things that you can actually afford, and you can use your money in order to do other things, in order to actually help maybe create a different room or take out a wall in order to add more space. But if you're just doing it just because you want to store stuff, you're missing out. All right? So that's 1, 2. So number 3, don't rule out square feet based on your current living space. Some people think, and they tell me, Tamika, I don't want an 800-something square foot home because I'm living in that and we're like really, really cramped. And it's like, I said, but have you decluttered? Have you reorganized some things? Have you used all of your storage capacity inside your home like IKEA does? And being able to actually, have you do it? Because you'd be surprised. An 858 square foot place, all depending on how it's laid out, actually would not be that bad. You know, it actually would not be as cramped as you think it is when you don't have all the stuff that probably needs to get out of those spaces, believe it or not. And so that's why when people tell me, okay, I don't want anything under 1,000 square feet, I say, okay, well, let's do this. I'll just leave it open. You know, when you're in this space and you actually see it, you may be surprised because of how it's actually laid out. High ceilings, for one. You know, high ceilings do a lot for a space in order to create sometimes it's the illusion, but really the feel of a bigger space, especially when you're looking at anything in about the 1,000 square foot range or more, and especially even under. It just adds more space. It just feels better. It doesn't feel as cramped. So when you're looking for homes, not to sit there and still stay like, 1,200 and up, but really it's opening up your perspective on square footage and how it's worked in your life. And you may be surprised, maybe some gyms that you've passed up in the past that may be actually open when you go in there and you actually are in this space. Next is 4. Consider small renovation projects to open up space, okay? So say, for instance, you are looking for that big 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and you want a home, you don't want a condo. That's fine. You find one, and it actually has pretty good square footage around it. Maybe it's 5,000 square foot. Home is about 1,000 square feet, okay? You get a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, but you want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, okay? Maybe it's a small renovation budget down the line where that 2-bath can actually come in, maybe pulling equity out the home and then actually getting that other bathroom or the half bathroom, whatever it may be. Or maybe it's opening up a kitchen to make more room for that open space that you want from the living room area to the kitchen area. Maybe it's that. Now, maybe, which I've had a client do, and I don't know if they're listening right now, you know who you are, but maybe it's actually getting a home and you want a bigger closet, for instance. You're looking for all these big walk-in closets, it's just nothing that you're finding, right? But maybe, if a room is adjacent to where your closet is and to your main home or your main room, the master bedroom, maybe it's knocking out a wall in between the closet areas so that room is a whole closet, not a room, but a closet. You board it up, not board it up, but you sheetrock it up so there's no door entering that bedroom. However, that's a big wardrobe room in a closet. I've seen someone do it, and it actually worked out really, really well. That being said, maybe not getting things that are as extravagant as you want, but being practical and saying, you know what, this will work for me now. Later on, I can make these other changes. Maybe it's a basement. It's not finished, but it has everything that I want. Maybe this basement I can turn into something as a rec room or something, a room where I can store stuff too. That's, you can. An attic. Making sure the attic is a way that you can actually store stuff in the attic and it's safe. That's another reason in order to have an attic, maybe smaller size rooms or smaller room count, but you can utilize your attic to store stuff. There's also, too, enclosing of the patio. So say, for instance, there's a patio that's a sunroom. You can close it, and so therefore you have more space as far as living space is concerned. You know, be practical about those things. When you're looking at a home, it's not going to come packaged like everything that you want at the just everything. It's probably not, and that's okay too. It really is. But it's utilizing what you have in order to make it work, and making sure that it's not just because I want it or I need it. I need it. No, but it really is truly a want in your life because it's practical for you, right? So when we come back, we're going to get into talking about some decluttering and organization so that you can fit into these spaces. But lastly, I want to leave you with this. What about a large lot? You can build an ADU unit or a granny unit in the back of it, right? If you really want an extra room, you know, think about that. You know, there's some other ways that you can do it with a large lot, smaller house, but you still have space on the lot in order to do something, in order to get rental income, older child on their way out, sheet cave, man cave, anything that you can think of, you know. And it's storage too if you want it. So there's another practical one. We'll be right back. Again, this is Tamika Ellsworth, and we are equipping people of faith for the home buying process. Stay tuned. All right.
Awesome.
So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to recap, and then we're going to start with decluttering. This should be about, what, 9 minutes 45, Joel?
We went over 4 seconds, so 9:41.
9:41, okay. So 9:41. All right. So 9:41. So I'm going to introduce you, and basically, you can I'm going to recap a little bit, and then you can kind of go into. And then the next one will be organization. So this whole 9 minutes and such as decluttering. And if we needed to go over and spill into the other one, that's fine. We can do that. But either way, you know, you can talk 9 minutes about decluttering, right?
That's a serious issue.
I think you can. I love my OCD people. I so do. You just don't know. It takes a little longer to do things, but I know that every T has been crossed, every I has been dotted is good. Yes, but you know, not holding it as an idol, not being a Martha and Mary. I mean, there's limitations to this stuff. You know what I mean? You gotta let. You know, you can't control everything, but you can be a good steward over what you have, so that it can last and you're not overabundance. I mean, because shoot, gluttony is a whole lot of things. That'll preach, right? So I think that we are ready. Joel, let's do it.
Equipping people of faith for the home buying process. This is Faith in Home Buying with top Bay Area home strategist and educator Tamika Ellsworth.
All right, so yes, we are equipping people of faith for the home buying process. Again, I have my special guest, Sherice. I'm from Sherice's Creative Lane, and she's going to talk a little bit about some decluttering and really, really how to make the next move and transition in your life actually work for you and to make it practical. And so, you know, I'm pretty excited. I mean, we talked a little bit about Ecclesiastes. We went into that as some activation. Ecclesiastes 3 is a time for everything. And I think that she may even kind of go in there too and kind of dig a little bit in that. But then also education. You know, there's different ways that you can look at your home buying approach. You know, whether it's a need versus a want. Do you need a garage? Do you need to look at square footage, over 1,000 square feet? Would you consider a renovation project later on down the line? Also, what about an ADU unit or a granny in-law unit in your land in order to make that work, but at the price point that you want, you know? But yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So, you know, you've been standing by, and thank you so much for coming through, Sherice.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And so, yeah, so decluttering. Let's talk about it.
All right. So, Ecclesiastes 3 and 6, I like the KJV.
Right?
A time to get, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to cast away.
Nice.
I am Serice Lane. I am the owner of Sherice's Creative Lane. I do home organization, decluttering, art projects with fiber. I love fiber. I love fabric. I sew. I do a lot of these things, and I noticed a couple of years ago that I was very passionate about space. Very good at organizing small spaces, large spaces, cars, just about anything. And so I have my little list here of things. Too much is too much. Okay, if you have too much of something, you have too much of something. And the first thing we need to do is to kind of look at our spiritual house. I'm a firm believer that we have to have our spiritual house clean and organized, meaning you have to get rid of stinking thinking, you have to get rid of all of these things that kind of keep you from doing those things you know you should be doing. Reading your word, I heard the other day, before getting your phone, go to the throne, meaning the throne of God, right? Seeking God and asking Him. And I think a lot of times we don't do that. We don't ask God to help us with organization, help us find my wallet, help me find my checkbook, and things like that. And so I learned through the years, I was not so organized in my bedroom. Everything else in the house was organized except for my bedroom. And many times we'd be getting ready for church and I'd need help. I'd say to my son, I can't find my shoe. Can you look under the bed? I want to wear this pair. Can you look for my shoe? Kind of thing. And he'd find it and they'd be saying, Mom, hurry up. We need to do choir rehearsal. And they had choir rehearsal between Sunday school and the actual service. And so I learned that it was the little things that counted. I didn't have to be overwhelmed by looking at everything. I could take a box, fill that box, and go through that box. I didn't have to have, necessarily a week to do it. I could just do it in a day. I could do it in an hour. I could set a timer. And these kinds of things worked. So the first thing is to pray. Ask God to help you with the space. You may not have much space. Set a goal. Many people aren't good with goals, so that's why I think timers are really good. If you have a timer, the timer can count down. Start with 15 minutes. 15 minutes of going through a box, over time really makes a difference. And then you need to get started. Set those goals, make sure they're attainable goals, and then get started with something. It doesn't matter if it's 10 minutes a day, it doesn't matter if it's 15 minutes a week. You'll slowly see that clutter go down. And then you need to sort. Part of that process is sorting. You need a pile for keeping, you need a pile for saving, and you need a pile to get rid of, okay? So if you're keeping something, keeping, giving away, and sometimes selling. You may have family heirlooms and things that you really, hold dear to your heart. You can share those with your siblings. You don't have to have everything. It can be overwhelming. And this was a big one for me. When I would start going through boxes and things, I would run across photographs and I'd start reminiscing, and you can really get caught up in that, especially if you come across a photo of a loved one who's passed away, and things like that. And if you need to take a break, set a timer so that you stay focused, so that you can come back. So it can be emotional, and it can be a happy time. You can remember those things that were good or whatever, but don't get stuck there. It's very easy to get stuck there. Let's see, start with yourself. Be the one to make the change. In my experience of working with couples, they tend to play the blame game. He's a hoarder, she's a hoarder, they don't ever clean the kitchen, various things like that. You really need to start getting rid of things, even if you have an equal amount of cabinets in your kitchen. One of my clients, I suggested that they split the kitchen in half, meaning you have your good pots and pans and things like that, and allow your husband to use the other pots and pans on his side, or the wife, so that there's not a lot of bickering about the dishes and this pot or that pot or what have you. Let's see. What else do I want to talk about?
No, but just to go along with that, I think that's actually a great idea, especially, you know, in our household. You know, couples bickering like, no, is it me or is it you? But also too, like when you combine households together.
Yes.
Like you just got married.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
Whose stuff is gonna go?
Right.
Is it gonna be your stuff? Is it gonna be my stuff? No, my stuff has been with. Well, what about? No, my mom gave me the. You know,
Right.
it's even that way too. Like, how are you going to distribute what stuff stays
Right.
and what stuff goes?
Right. And then there comes a compromise. I mean, you can't keep everything, and he can't keep everything. Your significant other can't keep everything. And so being able to have a balance in that and give a little, take a little, you know, don't be the one who always has to be right or these types of things. But really utilizing the time that you have to declutter will be very important when it comes time to organize. You know, I know because I've had containers full of papers. I mean, I still have some of my children's kindergarten paperwork.
I know, that's so hard.
I made them all scrapbooks in 2008.
Right.
And so the rest of those are boxed so that I can give them to them, and then they can do whatever they want with it.
Yeah.
So sometimes we hold on to things and we say, I'm holding this for so-and-so, I'm holding on to this dress until I can get back in it. But you were a size 3 and now you're a 14. And so, you know, just really, you know, if you have something, maybe pick 1 or 2 things that you're going to hold on to if that's your goal to get back into that dress. But be realistic. Be realistic and set realistic goals.
Right. I mean, you talk too. I mean, that's a big one too with children and their abundance.
Oh yes.
Of projects that come up, and I do agree. Like, keep the best top ones, but then give back to them. Like, hey, here you can share this with your kids if you have any, or you know your spouse. But
Right.
I'm not holding on to them anymore.
Right. Exactly.
Medals and trophies. Well, matter of fact, I had that at my parents' house still. Let me not talk about that, but still, yes.
Right.
But no, I've heard also too of practical advice when it comes to that is, again, that whole like a whole big scrapbook, and I think that's for some of us it is important to do. We love our little ones, but you know, there's not everything that you have to keep, and they'll understand that too. So thank you. So we're gonna come back. We're going to talk a little bit more about organization, but again, after the decluttering, after everything else, you coming together, there's been compromise on what needs to go, what needs to stay. Now, we need to talk a lot about organizing, and we're going to do that when we come back. Stay tuned. All right. Right, no, but it's the truth though. Like coming together, because husband and I, we had to go through that.
Yes.
Because he had his whole place, and I have my whole place
Yes.
too. And it's like, and we had a brand new house. It's like, so your decor was a lot different than mine.
Right, and is it, are you saying your things are more
You
important
say
than
your
mine?
things are more important.
I've had this since I was 18.
I'm serious.
It's still in good condition.
That's
You know what I mean?
we know we did. There were all these sets of silverware, of pots,
Right.
of like, you know, no, my mom helped me decorate and helped me buy this, and I'm like, purple, like, we're not having purple in the house. No, it's not going to be, I don't even like that, no.
Right. Yeah.
That's a whole other story, good Lord. But yeah, no, I think, but again, this is stuff that you have to think about.
Yeah.
You really, really do, because it's not just you going through. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't married. I mean, maybe you're moving in with someone else, you know. That very same thing applies. It just does. Or if you're moving in with a sibling, or if you're moving in with a friend, maybe you're buying something together with family. The same thing. Do you really need it? Can you compromise and maybe get something completely new?
Right.
Hold on to it for 2 years, you know, and then kind of continue on. Where's the compromise, though?
Right.
So, no. All right. Organizing. Let's get into it. What time frame am I looking at, Joel?
10:50.
10:50. Put that down. 10:50. Hope you guys are enjoying this. Huey, visiting Pastor Huey. Oh, hi, Angelina. All right, so 10 minutes, 50 seconds. This is our last segment, and you don't have to stop exactly at a minute. You can stop at about 30 seconds or 40, if we're going to there.
This
it's
is
all right.
second to last segment.
Second to last segment, because the last one is at the end. But then, yeah, I'll have you give your contact info again at the very, very end.
Okay.
All right, so let's go.
Now back to Faith in Home Buying, equipping people of faith for the home buying process. Once again, your host, Tamika Ellsworth.
All right. Equipping people of faith for the home buying process. And hey, look, it's not just about physically looking for homes. It's about actually organizing the stuff inside the home in order to make it feel like it's comfortable and it's peaceful. Because God's not an author of confusion. Because I can tell you a confused home will definitely be a confused mind. But we've been talking about some decluttering skills. I think you bring some great insight and advice on it. Pray, sort, or set goals, get started, to have a timer, about things and making sure that you don't get too consumed and over-consumed about looking through boxes and such. And it probably helps, too, having another person there. I mean, maybe not doing it by yourself, too, having another person there, like Sherice, there to help you really decide and decipher, what things do you really, really need, right? So now we're going to get into organizing. So let's talk a little bit about some organizing tips for people in this type of phase.
Okay. So with organizing, I always say less is more.
Mm-hmm.
It's more beneficial. How is less more? It's more beneficial in the long run. You don't, like Tamika was saying, you may not need 3 bedrooms, you may only need 2. And when it comes to cleaning these rooms, the more you have, the more work you're going to have to do.
Right.
And so this is where organizing comes in. And so once again, because we are people of faith, we're going to pray. We're going to ask God to help us with organizing. We're going to set our goals, and we're going to get started. And I am a firm believer in making safety a priority.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a preschool teacher, and I used to always tell my parents to crawl around their apartment or their home, because at that level, you can see what's dangerous, what cord is hanging, what sharp object might be under the table, what piece of wood may be hanging, a little splinter coming under a drawer, things like that. And so it's really important to think about safety. You're going to be putting heavier things on the bottom shelves. You're going to be anchoring things to the wall. I mean, we're in an era where we have flat screen TVs but there are some people who still have the older model televisions that are pretty heavy and can fall over on someone. So that being said, also, you need to have your emergency kits. I'm very big on that. If it's a backpack that you can grab and go that has your emergency phone numbers and things like that, this is all part of organizing. What are you going to do in a natural disaster? What are you going to do if the lights go out? Where are your flashlights? Where are all of the things that you need? And so being organized, being able to walk through your house in the dark and know where everything is in a natural disaster, a blackout, earthquake, or what have you. And so a measuring tape is a must when you are deciding where you're going to put something. I've learned through the years that when I lived in one place and I moved, I had to reconfigure the room because of the wall size, the space, the width of the room. All of these things are very important. So you need a measuring tape. Even when you're out there shopping, if you're a new homeowner and you're looking for a couch or a bed or tables, you need to know what space that you're working with. Okay, my youngest daughter just got her first studio. She was so excited. She thought she needed a couch. She kept asking my advice, and how many know children ask your advice, but they don't always take it. But I suggested to her that she have chairs versus a couch because it's such a small studio. So having 2 chairs with a little ottoman table worked fine for her space. I mean, she can actually walk around there. So you want safety in that room. You also want, tables with sharp edges to have some kind of plastic covering or something for the little toddler, if you have a little toddler, and labeling. So, you know, some people aren't big on labeling and some are. I think labeling helps. Coming from a preschool background, it helps with kids with spelling and sounding out words and word recognition and things like that. If you don't want to label, make sure things are in clear containers. This way you can see it. Because many times I've stored things in containers, I can't remember what's in that one. I have to take 4 down, and everything that I needed was on the very bottom. But if you have it, you know, where you can see through it, then you kind of know what it is. So that's an alternative to doing that. Making a house rule that if you use it, put it back is very important. Everything should have a place. From your closet, if you use shoe boxes, if you use a shoe rack, whatever it is, make sure that you put those things back and lead by example. I lived in a studio for 5 years, and there was absolutely no storage. There was no storage on the property or anything. And so what I had to do, I created a bed. I designed it, and a friend of mine built it. Mm-hmm. And the bed was about 4 feet, about 4.5 feet high, maybe 3 to 4 feet high. And it had 4, it was like a T. And so I have 4 compartments under there with a flat piece of wood, which was the section that I was going to lie on, and the back end of it opened up. So it's sort of like a captain's bed, but I was able to store things in there. So just really thinking about your space. Another thing is I love IKEA, and they have a particular shelf that's really deep, so you can store a lot in these big cubes. Right. Getting things up off the floor, things like that, and making sure that everything has a place and it's displayed properly. And then you can reorganize the shelf if you want to, but then you don't have all these things sitting around on the floor, on the table, under the table, and things like that. And always thinking about safety. Let's see, I talked a little bit about leading by example. You can also use, some houses have space above the cabinets. You can use that. Right. You don't have to have a lot of money to organize. You can go to your local dollar stores, and you can also use what you have. So I'm a firm believer, use what you got till you get what you want, okay? And so what you can do is use some of the things you can recycle. I'm a big one on that. I recycle cards. You know, you can cut them off and make a new card. I mean, just various things that you can do so you have an empty container. One of the things, I have a little Q-tip container, and I put all my little business cards in there, things like that. So finding another use for something. And you've already decluttered, so you're going to have this clear space, this safe space, the safe living quarter, which will make your stress level drop tremendously, knowing where everything is, and your children, your spouse, your mother. We have so many blended families. They will follow suit. They will see what you're doing and how you're living and how easy it is, even to the refrigerator, organizing the refrigerator, organizing the freezer, having a specific place for everything that it fits. And then, you know, not having so many containers that it's cumbersome, but combining. You're going to combine your paper clips with your staplers, with your hole punches, or, you know, your calculators and things like that if you have an office space in your home that you're organizing. So you don't have to have a whole lot of containers, but enough where everything can fit. I'm a firm believer, get rid of that junk drawer. Oh. Every home that I have been in has a junk drawer. And everything in that junk drawer has a place.
But you may need it.
It has a place. And so finding a space for that junk drawer, and you can free up that space. Another thing is the kitchen. I've experienced being in spaces where there was not enough cabinets in the kitchen. And so what you can do is, what I did is put my plates and things in a drawer. I know that sounds weird, but you you put it in the lower drawer because it's a bit heavy. And, things like that. Thinking about the space that you have. How can I best use the space that I have? Every inch, putting a shelf inside your cabinet underneath your sink so you have 2 layers, where you can store things versus 1. And then you have all that empty space across the top of all your cleaning supplies. And your drawers, rolling your clothes, rolling your socks, rolling your belts, making space for other things. You don't even have to have the dividers. I did it when I was married. I made sure that my husband's drawers were, color-coded. Everything had a place.
Bless you.
And so, things like that. Hopefully this is helpful information and organizing. You don't have to be a pro at it. You just need to get started.
No, I think that's so great. Oh, thank you so much. And I was taking notes too. Husband, don't hold me to it, okay? But I was taking notes as well. But no. Especially having the kids follow suit, especially if you do have children. In order to help them, you got to get started and lead by example. But no, it's very, very important. But I think that a lot of the things that you brought up are very much things that we can incorporate that are practical. Especially with safety and things of that nature, it's easy to incorporate those things. You just got to get started. All right, so we're going to end out and round out the episode in a little bit. Stay tuned. I'm coming back. Awesome.
All right.
Hey! All right. So bring that tape measure too.
Oh, yes. I have one in my bag.
You have
Everywhere
one?
I'll be like, will this fit? Because, it's a bummer to get a piece of furniture and it doesn't fit or whatever. You have to measure.
You have to. And even now they got the ones that you can cheat. The little laser ones. I have some of my clients bring the laser ones so they know the room set up and stuff. So they're already on it. I got a lot of organized clients. I'm like, look at y'all. Go ahead.
Yes.
Organization. All right, so our last segment, is it still 5:15 or do I get a little less time?
5:14.
It's okay, they didn't hear that online, you're all right. As long as they didn't hear it online, you're okay.
That was my tea.
So, 5:14. This one I have to be on time. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to close. I'm going to just kind of do a little recap. We're going to close and we're going to give out your information, even on your Facebook. Remember to talk about that too. We can find you on Facebook, and if there's an email address to contact you and a phone number, talk about that. Be as clear as you can, and then we're going to close it out.
All right.
Excellent job. You're natural. Give interviews all the time. Come on, this is a piece of cake. This is one part.
All right.
All right, let's go, Joel.
This is Faith in Homebuying, equipping people of faith for the home buying process. Once again, your host, Tamika Ellsworth.
All right. So we're closing things out. Hey, look, if you are part of the Facebook Live and you missed it, you got to catch us. AM 1100 KFAX every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. You can catch us, catch me really, and then us, whoever I'm with, talking about these subject topics. But, we've been talking today about not only just a time for everything of finding the right home in the right space, but being able to fit in it. When you come together as a couple, or even just you yourself into making transitions and changes, we just talked about some great practical insight on, number one, not just how to choose a property or how to choose a home, being realistic with the intentions, right? But then also, too, how to declutter and making that move, taking things out, praying about it, making sure you have a plan. But then also, too, once you have a plan and you've executed it, now organizing it and making it work not only for yourself, but even for those that, maybe you do end up getting married, moving into your own place. How's their stuff going to fit in with whatever you have, compromising and making it actually work. And so, Sherice, I thank you so very much. Let the people know, just in case they need you, because I know some people that do. How can they contact you?
Okay, I am on Facebook under Sherice's Creative Lane. you can email me at sherisescreativelane@gmail.com. That's SHERICE KREATIV at lane@gmail.com. And my telephone number is 650-630-9067.
Exactly. Yes, Serice Creative Lane, and that creative came, which is kind of cool. No, it's not a mistake. But the reason that it came, I thought it was kind of a cool thing when you had lived in Germany.
Yes, that's the spelling, the German spelling for creative.
Come on, Serice Creative Lane. And so if you forgot about it, you can remember it there, the German spelling of it. But I thank you again for coming in, and I think it was pretty profound how we met and how God's going to continue on with this story, because believe me, folks, there's so much more to this story that she's walking out right now. I don't want to reveal it, because once it happens and once the keys are in hand, even in her life, it's going to be such a testimony in order to talk about. And so I'm really, really excited about that. But thank you very much again. And hey,
You're very welcome.
it's so important. When I say equipping people of faith for the home buying process, it really is the totality. Not just is this the right time for you to buy, or is this the right area? But no, are you in a space mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally in order for you to go forward with the home buying process? It's the truth. And it's this whole process, even as a couple, I'm telling you, it's a test of, it is one of the biggest purchases that you make in your whole life, just about in most people. And when you come together, even with a couple, or even just someone, coming in together with a purchase of a home, family member or anybody, it's a big test of who you are emotionally, for sure. Losing out on homes, or putting offers in, or a home I love, and not being able to get what you want, or having to get rid of some things and compromise. I mean, it's a test of your character, for sure. And I'm hoping that, as you continue to tune in and you continue to listen to some of the things that I bring, I'm hopefully they're Holy Spirit based. It can give you a little bit of a foot up. And, hey, if you're on the fence, don't know if you're ready for the process, I'd love to speak with you. Please give me a call, shout me out, TamikaEllsworth.com, or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, Tamika Ellsworth, ELLSWORTH. That's my last name. You can find me anywhere. You can Google me. And hey, if you're ready to go and you say, Tamika, this faith thing, I got this, but I'm ready to go find my home now, I want to work with you too. I'm going to walk with you on that journey. So totally give me a call too, 408-561-7922. That is my phone number. Yes, I will pick it up. If I don't, that means I'm with a client, or probably playing with my babies. But other than that, I really want to work with you and walk with you on this journey. And I thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can catch me too, American Dream TV. That's Thursdays, streaming at 7 o'clock at night. But again, you can catch this whole episode again on AM 1100 KFAX, 9 a.m. in the morning on Saturdays. If you don't get up that early, that's okay. You can still podcast it on my website, TamikaEllsworth.com. You can find it there as well. Or you can go to the KFAX website. Look me up as a host, Tamika Ellsworth, and you can actually listen to it then. And I'd encourage you. I have some other ones that have been, from money management financially to, good Lord, great testimonies with people. It's just been an amazing ride, and a lot of wealth of knowledge and information. So thank you again, Tamika Ellsworth, equipping people of faith in the home buying process, faith in home buying.
You hit it right on top.
Hey!
Awesome.
Right on. So that's it. That's
All
it.
right.
It wasn't too bad, right?
No, not at
Thank
all.
you guys for joining in. Thank you very much for coming on and hanging with us today. And again, if you missed anything, please check it out. AM 1100 KFAX, 9 o'clock in the morning, or you can simply just kind of look me up on my website and find the podcast from the future ones that we had. It's some great information from guests that I've had on, and next week I'll be having half of the couple is going to be talking about their home ownership journey, and I love their story. I mean, I just happen to, again, I'm a small part in these things that happen, but I'll talk about it to the cows. I'm like, because I just think it's just such a great example of stewardship, home ownership, and really believing by faith that anything is possible. So stay tuned for the next one. Thank you again.
Awesome. I love that word.
Take that one down. Bye. Wave, wave. Sunshine, a whole bunch of people watching.
Oh, wow.
Yep.